Welcome back to Mr. DuPage's classroom. This lesson is for my Algebra 2 class. It is 5.5, Transforming Rational Functions, Day 2. Review, using the graph of f of x equals 1 over x as a guide, describe the transformation, identify the asymptotes, identify the domain and range, and graph each function. Let's continue using the setup that I showed you guys in the last note sheet. I am going to use an x section and a y section. In my x section, I have the horizontal translation, the vertical asymptote, and my domain. In my y section, I'll have the vertical translation, the horizontal asymptote, and my range. Okay? So now what I need to do is look and see what kind of movement I am going to have. If it is underneath of the fraction bar, then it's going to be my horizontal translation. If it's outside the fraction bar, then it'll be my vertical translation. So on this problem, it is underneath the fraction bar. Remember, if it's underneath the fraction bar, we will go opposite of the number. So since it's negative, that means I'm going to move to the right. So my horizontal translation will be right 4. Since there is no number sitting out here in outside the fraction bar, then I will not have a vertical translation. Now that I know what my horizontal translation is, I can figure out that my vertical asymptote has gone from x equals 0. It's moved to the right 4 places, so it is now x equals 4. And my domain will be all real except for my asymptote, which is 4. Okay? Well, since I did not have a vertical translation, that means my horizontal asymptote, which starts at y equals 0, has stayed at y equals 0, and my range will be all real except my horizontal asymptote, which is 0. Okay? Now, the other thing you need to remember is my vertical asymptote will go in for x right here, so that is 4. And the bottom underneath that every single time, the y value, where I have a vertical asymptote, is always a squiggly because my vertical asymptote is a hole. So before we fill out the rest of our table, let's go ahead and plot our vertical asymptote. So we need to go to x equals 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Make a vertical dotted line. Then I have my horizontal asymptote, which starts at y equals 0, which is here, and stays there. So we have a horizontal dashed line there. To fill in the rest of our table, I add 1 to my vertical asymptote to get to my next box, and then I add 1 to get to my last box. I'll subtract 1 going the other way, subtract 1 going the other way. Okay? To fill in my f of x boxes, I'm going to take my x value, so in this case number 5, put it in for my x in the original problem. So I have 1 over 5 minus 4. Well, 5 minus 4 is 1, so 1 over 1 will be 1. Then I'm going to go ahead and take 6 and plug it in for my x value. So 1 over 6 minus 4 is 1 over 2. 1 over 2 is 1/2 or 0.5. It does not matter to me. Okay? Let's go ahead and plot those 2 points. I'm going to go to 5, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Move up to 1. 6 would be the next one, and down to 1/2. Remember, when you graph this, I want to be as close to the asymptotes as I can without touching them or crossing over them. Now we need to fill in the other side of our table. So I'll put 3 in for my x. So 1 over 3 minus 4. Well, 3 minus 4 is negative 1. 1 over negative 1 would be negative 1. And then if I put 2 in for x, then I have 1 over 2 minus 4. Well, 2 minus 4 is negative 2. So it'll be negative 1 over 2. Negative 1 over 2. So let's go to 3. 1, 2, 3. Down to negative 1. Then we go to 2, and it's negative 1/2. Get close to the asymptote, curl around, and we're good to go. Okay? That's the end of our problem. So let's go ahead and move on to number 2. Remember our x section and our y section. In our x section, we have the horizontal translation. We have the vertical asymptote, and we have the domain. In our y section, we have the vertical translation, the horizontal asymptote, and our range. For a horizontal translation, we're looking right here. I'm going to look at x plus 2. Since it is underneath of the fraction bar, then it's going to be the opposite of our number, which is positive 2, so I'll move left 2. Since my vertical asymptote starts at x equals 0, and I've moved to the left, it will now be x equals negative 2. My domain will be all real except my vertical asymptote, which is negative 2. Now on to my y section. Horizontal translation will be what's outside of our fraction. This is positive 4 in this case. So my vertical translation will be up 4. Remember, if it's outside of the fraction, I go ahead and follow the sign. So since it was positive, that means I'm going to move up 4. My horizontal asymptote then, which started at y equals 0, will now be at y equals positive 4. And my range will be all real except 4. That comes from right here. Let's go ahead and plot our vertical and horizontal asymptotes. So my vertical asymptote tells me it's at negative 2, so I go to x is negative 2, vertical dash line. Then for my horizontal asymptote, it's at y is 4, so I go up to 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and make a horizontal dash line there. Now to fill in our table, remember that the middle is my vertical asymptote every single time. So this would be negative 2. I'll add 1 to negative 2, which is negative 1. Add 1 to negative 1, which is 0. Then I'll subtract 1, so negative 3. Subtract 1, so negative 4. Underneath my vertical asymptote, my y is nothing. Okay? So from here, I need to go ahead and figure out how to fill in my y values. So I'll put negative 1 in for x. 1 over negative 1 plus 2 is 1 over 1. So let's look at this fully because there's two movements, okay? So if I put negative 1 in for x, it'd be f of negative 1 is equal to 1 over negative 1 plus 2 plus 4. Well, negative 1 plus 2 would get me positive 1. 1 over 1 is 1, so plus 4 would equal 5. Okay? So I wanted you to see that we're actually going to have to add the fraction and the numbers on the outside in order to get our y values here. All right? So I put 0 in for x now. So I'm going to go ahead and put 0 in for x. 1 over 0 plus 2 is 2. So I have 1 half plus 4. That would get me 4.5. Let's go ahead and plot those points. So go to x is negative 1. Y is 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. X is 0. Go up to 4.5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1 half. Close to the asymptotes as I can without touching or crossing. Now I need to fill out the negative 3, the section with the negative 3, right? So if I put negative 3 in for x, I have 1 over negative 3 plus 2. Well, negative 3 plus 2 is negative 1. So 1 over negative 1 is negative 1. Plus 4 would be positive 3. Then I have 1 over, I'm going to put negative 4 in for my x value. So 1 over negative 4 plus 2. Well, negative 4 plus 2 is negative 2. So I have negative 1 half plus 4, which is 3.5. Go to negative 3. It'd be 1, 2, 3. Up to 3. 1, 2, 3. Then I go to negative 4, which is here. Up to 3.5. 1, 2, 3, and 1 half. As close as I can be to the asymptotes without touching. And I am done with that problem. Problem 3, I'm going to have two movements again. So I'm going to have my x section. I'm going to have my y section. My x section works with the horizontal translation, the vertical asymptote, and my domain. The y section works with my vertical translation, the horizontal asymptote, and my range. Okay? So what is my horizontal translation? That's going to come from this x minus 3. Since it's under the fraction bar, I will not pay attention to the negative. I'm going to go right 3. My vertical asymptote always starts at 0. So since it moved to the right 3, it's going to be x equals 3 now. And my domain is all real except for my vertical asymptote, which is 3. Now onto my y section. My vertical translation is going to be the number outside, which is negative 5. I follow the sign on the outside, so it's down 5. My horizontal asymptote then is going to be y equals negative 5 because it started at y equals 0. It moved down 5, so now it's y equals negative 5. And my range will be all real except negative 5. So let's go ahead and plot our vertical asymptote and our horizontal asymptote. For x equals 3, it'd be 1, 2, 3. Make a vertical dashed line. For my horizontal asymptote, be negative 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Make a horizontal dashed line. Okay. In the center, I'm going to have my vertical asymptote, which is going to be 3. Add 1, 4. Add 1, 5. Subtract 1, 2. Subtract 1, 1. Underneath my vertical asymptote is going to be a squiggly because it doesn't exist. Now I need to go ahead and plug my numbers in for x, right? The plug and play situation. So when I plug my numbers in for x, I'm going to put 4 in for x. Well, 4 minus 3 is 1, so I have 1 over 1, which is 1, minus 5 is negative 4. Then I have 1 over 5 minus 3, so 5 minus 3 is 2. So this is 1 over 2 minus 5 would get me negative 4.5. Okay. Then from here, I'm going to go ahead. I want to go ahead and plot those points real quick. So I go to 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, down to 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. There's my first point. Then I go to 5 and 4.5. There's my second point. Go ahead and plot or graph my top section. Now I need to work with this 2. So I'm going to put 2 in for x. Well, 1 over 2 minus 3. 2 minus 3 is negative 1. 1 over negative 1 is still negative 1. Negative 1 minus 5 would be negative 6. If I put 1 in for my x, I get 1 over 1 minus 3. 1 minus 3 is negative 2. So I have negative 1/2 minus 5, which is negative 5.5. So if I go to positive 2 on my x, there it is, down to 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then I go to 1 on my x, it's right here, down to 5.5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.5. Get as close as I can to my asymptotes without touching or crossing. And I am done. Okay, let's move on to our last problem. We have our x section. We have our y section. So our x section works with the horizontal translation. It works with our vertical asymptote. And it works with our domain. Our y section works with our vertical translation, our horizontal asymptote, and our range. Okay? Our horizontal translation comes from this x minus 7. I do not follow the sign that's underneath the fraction bar, so it's actually going to move to the right 7. Go right 7, which means my vertical asymptote, which starts at x equals 0, has now moved to the right 7, so now is x equals 7. And my domain is all real except for my vertical asymptote, which in this case is 7. Okay? Then I look at my vertical translation. It's the number on the outside. I do follow the sign with the number on the outside. So I have positive 4, which means my vertical translation is up 4. My horizontal asymptote, which started at y equals 0, is now y equals 4. And my range is all real except positive 4. Let's go ahead and plot our vertical asymptote and our horizontal asymptote. So our vertical asymptote goes to 7. X equals 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Vertical dashed line at 7. Our horizontal asymptote goes to 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Horizontal asymptote there. So we're good with our asymptotes at this point. Now I need to figure out what my graph is going to look like. Okay? So I put my vertical asymptote in the center, which is 7. The number underneath the squiggly. Plus 1 is 8. Plus 1 is 9. Minus 1 is 6. Minus 1 is 5. Now I need to plug those x's back into the original problem. So I have 1 over 8 minus 7. 8 minus 7 is 1. 1 over 1 is 1. Plus 4 is 5. Then I need to put 9 in for my x. So 1 over 9 minus 7 is 2. 9 minus 7 is 2, correct? So 1 over 2 is 1/2. 1/2 plus 4 would be 4.5. On to 6, going in for our x. 6 minus 7 is -1. So 1 over -1 is -1. Plus 4 would be 3. Put 5 in for x. 5 minus 2 is -2. I have 1 over -2, which is -1/2. -1/2 plus 4 is 3.5. Okay? So let's go ahead and plot all those points. Start with 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then it's up 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, that means this would be 9, and that would be about 4.5. I want to be as close as I can to my asymptotes without touching or crossing. Then I need to go ahead and go to 6, 3. So let's get rid of these little dots real quick. 6, 3 would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 3 is right there. Then I go to 5 and 3.5, so there's 5, 3.5. Again, as close as I can get without touching, and all the way through. That is the end of our lesson. Just remember that your horizontal translation comes from underneath the fraction bar. When I'm looking at my horizontal translation, I will not follow the sign. My vertical translation comes from outside of the fraction bar, okay? And I will follow the sign of my vertical translation. My horizontal translation works with my vertical asymptote and my domain. My vertical translation works with my horizontal asymptote and my range. If you have any problems over this stuff, please make sure you're coming in and seeing me or asking questions during class. Otherwise, thank you very much for watching the video, and have a great day.